Hello, my name is Clifton Johnson, and welcome to the Empower series. I am so excited about today's episode because in the month of August, we always talk about growth mindset and how do we develop a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. But along with that is mental health. I believe that it doesn't get a lot of attention. I can tell you personally, I'm not giving my mental health a lot of attention. We tend to eat well, work out, sleep, and do all the things that are physically healthy, but then the mental side of things is neglected. I know I neglected myself. I personally have a relationship with someone who's going through some mental crisis, and I want to be there for them. I'm having some struggles. So today's topic is going to be about mental health. It might revert to a personal counseling session. But before we get deep into that, I want to tell you a couple of things, like I always do. If you're watching this right now on YouTube or Facebook, please do not keep this to yourself. Go ahead and share it. Somebody around you can benefit and be blessed by this, so do not keep us a secret. The only way people are going to find out about the Empower series is if you share it with them. So please do so. If you're new to the Empower series, we're all about giving you hope, inspiration, education, and connection to resources to help you achieve your goal. We want to inspire you to thrive in every area of your life, not just finances. So please take the time to share this with someone else, post this on your social media, get the word out, because there's other people that can be blessed and helped. Also, since we're going to talk about mental health, I do want to make a note to those who are who might be triggered. So we understand that discussing mental health can be very sensitive and may evoke strong emotions. So please be aware that this podcast will cover topics that may be distressing to some listeners, including but not limited to self-harm, suicide, and trauma. So if you believe that you may be triggered by these topics, please take care of yourself and consider pausing or discontinuing this podcast. Um, if you or someone you know is experiencing a mental health crisis, please call or text the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. And at the end of the episode, we'll also provide you a list with some mental health resources for you to reference. And thank you for understanding. So today, our guest is a previous Empower Series speaker, Karlos Lyons. He's a professional. He's a licensed professional counselor. He works for Davis Counseling Center. And why don't we welcome him? Karlos, welcome back to the Empower series, my man.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, you know, you've been on during the COVID era when we just did a podcast. We're doing in-person workshops. We're now doing in-person workshops again. But I am really looking forward to our conversation today because I know you are an advocate of mental health.
Right.
I was looking at your profile and I'm going to read something that you said that I'm right in alignment with. So you believe in the beauty of a sound mind and mental clarity.
Yes.
That just sounds so beautiful, man.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then also knowing the way we live successfully correlates the with the way we think and feel.
Mhm.
So I always think this is an inside out game.
Absolutely.
What we manifest around us is so much a reflection of what's inside
Mhm.
and how we think.
Yeah.
And I think that doesn't get a lot of attention. And I know, like, I'm a financial advisor, not enough people meet with us. I feel like you're in the same boat. Not enough people
The
need to meet
therapist.
with you, but they're not meeting with you.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely one of those things that I think the conversation, the trajectory around mental health is obviously changing. And you mentioned coming in during the COVID era to speak here and be on. And thank you again for allowing me to come back. That was the beginning of like the launching of my career as a mental health therapist. And during the COVID era, there was a lot going on a global scale. From the recent shooting of George Floyd at that time
Right.
to obviously the pandemic and just a resurgence of a lot of different things happening culturally for us and just global panic, global anxiety around our mortality as people. So to be thrust into the profession as a mental health person, I think seeing that conversation unfold as I was coming into becoming a therapist and as a clinician was really cool. I think our conversation since that time is elevated and has become a really hot topic right now amongst a lot of different spaces from entertainment to movies. I see it interwoven into a lot of the cultural things now. Like the most recent example I can think of is the movie Inside Out 2. Have you seen it?
No,
Have you seen Inside Out 1?
no, I haven't. I don't think I've seen that one either. I don't watch a lot of TV. Tell
Oh,
me
that's
about
okay. So it is it's a Disney movie, right? It's a kids movie, but of course we know that Disney creates films in a way that, they got to bring the
the
parents
parents
got to
have to
bring
go.
the kids there. So obviously it's going to be something for the parents as well as a family-oriented setting. And the premise of Inside Out and Inside Out 2 is we take a look of the inside of a little girl's brain
Oh, I think I've seen the.
and the primary emotions of joy and anger and fear, and I believe disgust and sadness are in there. And
Okay.
so those are the primary emotions that we explore in the first film. And in the second film, there's a new breed of emotions that comes up as she becomes an adolescent and she's a teenager. And so anxiety is the new big emotional topic that's covered in that film. And I just think the fact that it became like, I believe, the highest grossing animated film of its kind for Pixar, if I'm not mistaken. It's taken over a lot of audiences globally and the interest around this topic. I talked to clients about the movie, adults and teens who have been impacted by it. It came out this summer. So I think the conversation around mental health, to answer the question, is changing, it's progressing, it's becoming a national and global conversation.
Hmm.
But, obviously my work as the clinician, I'm here to advocate for it as
Yeah.
much as I can because I know there's some people just are mystified about like how to even get started, where to go, who to talk to, all those kind of things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I'll tell you. Well, in our conversation today, I want to cover a couple of things. I want to definitely make sure that people know what mental health is
Okay.
because it is a buzzword and it means different things. I also want to talk about if there's just like from a physical perspective, there's is it you can take instead of you having a crisis, is there some kind of mental health preparation or best practices
Hmm.
before you get to the crisis,
Right.
right?
Right.
Signs of struggling.
Mm.
Also, I want to talk about the stigma. How do we get rid of the stigma? And from our conversations that I'm dealing with some things, right?
Hmm.
So in the midst of our conversation and addressing these things that I think our viewers will benefit from,
Right.
I would love to get some personal one-on-one help.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Hey, I'm fair. It's fair game, so I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
So the basic thing, mental health is a buzzword.
Yeah.
So how would you define mental health, and giving that attention versus the physical health gets a lot more attention than mental health. So how would you define that? And
Well, so the mental health, the focal point being our mind, our psyche, and then overall our brain, like the physical structure of our brain health.
Mhm.
And honestly, I know we talk a lot about, the difference between mental or physical health. I don't see them as honestly, like taken apart. I think it's like a both and kind of situation, the mind body connection, the
Right.
continuum of both of them and how they work together. And it's a balancing relationship. It's balancing the both, right? If you're balancing things out in your physical health, it's going to automatically start to balance things in your mental health as
Mhm.
far as like the physical structure. But obviously, there's some emotional things, there's some psychological frameworks that we all, presuppositions that we have about the world that we kind of view the world through. And
Mhm.
in that part, talk therapy is instrumental in helping that. I think when we talk about psychiatry, we're talking about the brain chemistry and how the physical structure is impacted and impacting parts of our life. Does that make sense? So mental health is the focal point is the mind, the psyche.
Right. Well, here's what I would say. I like the concept that our brain is an organ,
Yeah.
just like any other organ in our body.
Yeah.
But I feel like when you go to a doctor for a checkup, recently now they're asking you about, are you depressed?
They
And
are.
that's like, come on, man. Like, I don't want that's going to affect my insurance if I say yes to that, right?
Right.
So my thought is, just like when you go to the doctor, they take your height, weight, blood pressure. Are there things they can do that's not so obvious of asking these questions about depression, or if you thought about harming yourself, which is you're not inclined to tell the truth usually in those situations. But there should be some kind of mental annual checkup as well.
Hmm.
How do we do that? How do we get to the point to where if we're going to go to a doctor for an annual checkup, we have a session with a counselor just to talk about what's going on in our lives to make
Hmm.
sure that we're thinking effectively and clearly.
So are you asking in regards to before I go for just a regular physical or check with the doctor, how do I make sure that I am checking in on my mind.
Yeah, so I'll tell you right now, there's probably people walking around right now that need to go to counseling.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who really need to go to counseling. They just avoid counseling. But I'm just thinking, even with myself, I find that there are certain life events that I've gone through. So I've gone through a divorce. So I went through counseling then because of the divorce. Also, the effect on my children. Also, there's been some trauma that my children have gone through.
Yeah.
I've gone to counseling. But what's interesting, I think every time I've gone to counseling, it's been some event that has happened, and it's been never like I can't even think about
You
the
never
term.
gone preemptively.
There you go. That's
You
what I'm
haven't
trying to
gone
think of.
preemptively, like
Yeah.
it's always been after the fact.
Right,
Like
right.
you're talking about how do I get in and do it before?
Exactly. That's one thing.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, do you have people who do that? Hey, nothing's really happening in my life right now. I just thought I would come in and talk some things out.
I do.
Okay.
I do have people that do that. I think everybody, this is kind of a conversation around where the person's at in their awareness around these kind of things, right? Are you aware of your body? Are you aware of yourself enough to say, hey, I'm feeling something's just different. I'm feeling a little off. I just need some place to be able to talk it out, to process it through. And there are people that do come in preemptively to say, I want to see a therapist. I want to get into this. I don't know what to expect. This is new for me, but I just want to sit down with someone and be able to have a place to process, because I feel like I am helping everybody else or doing these things. And I got all these different moving parts in my personal life, but I don't have anybody there for me. And so that's.
Dude, we use some tissue. How'd you know? No, but seriously.
Yeah.
I was just thinking when you were talking about that. Okay, this maybe someone else can relate to this. There's a lot of things happening with me right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if I told you I have cancer. Did I tell you
Yes,
that?
you did. I remember that. Yes.
So I have cancer. I have not gone to counseling for that. I have not gone to a support group for that. But I've told myself I need to. I just haven't done it. Right.
So can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What do you feel like is the hindrance for you in doing what you feel like you need to do? What is the hindrance?
But you know what's interesting? I'll answer that because I'm not going for those. I haven't gone for those reasons. But there's someone in my life that is really going through some crisis right now, and that relationship is not the way I would like it to be. It's not as supportive as I would like. I'm going to counseling for that. What's interesting, the counselor told me that, in the first 35 minutes, we've talked about this other person who's going through a crisis, but we haven't talked about you.
Yeah.
And I think that's me. I'm always giving. I'm trying to help. How do I empower you, right? How do I help you? But then the thought is, if you're not taking care of yourself,
how can you be present for other people?
I can't be there for this person that's really going through trauma right now. So your question again was, what was it again?
What do you feel like is the hindrance from you going to do that for you? Like if you're addressing other people's concerns and how to support them, which is a good thing, do you feel unworthy to talk about you?
That's another word that came up. So here's my thought. Ultimately, we don't get what we want, but we get what we feel like we're worth. And so whenever things are not going right in my life, or if I don't have the right relationships, and I'm thinking, so at the end of the day, I can come up with all these external excuses. But when I sit back and I look at it, I go, well, Clifton, do you feel like you're worthy of a healthy relationship? Do you feel like you're worthy of caring for yourself first? Do you feel like you're worthy of having people, of being open and being vulnerable with other people, right? And so, I don't know. I think the surface level answer to your question is that I'm so busy doing other things, I'm just not giving myself attention. It probably takes more work to go deeper. There's a deeper reason, but I'm always thinking, hey, I'll do it later. I'll do it later. I'll do it later.
Yeah.
But I'm going to counseling now.
Okay.
But what prompted me is the relationship with this person that's very important to me. And then as a result of that, I've just started the individual counseling.
Okay.
And what I'm finding out is that everything has to do with the past, right? Because the trauma in the past, the way I feel like you just got to stay focused on your goal. I have really put aside a lot of acknowledging my feelings and just getting it done. And And so one of the issues that's coming up with this person that I really care about is I don't express my feelings.
Yeah.
You know, and
They're telling you
yeah, that I'm
you
not
don't
expressing
express
my
it.
feelings. And because of that, there's not a feeling that I'm there for them emotionally
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because I just want to get it done. Let's just
Yeah.
get it done. Like I'm here, I'm showing up.
Yeah.
But
The term that we would use is emotional attunement. Are you tuned in to not only them, but are you tuned into your own self to be available for other people?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So the work I'm working on is on a daily basis in my journal to really, dig deep and identify how do I feel?
Yeah.
How do I
Yeah.
feel?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it goes back, and we're in this conversation because we were talking about the need for seeing a counselor,
Yeah.
even when you feel like there's no need to see one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that I believe that there needs to be some preemptive
Absolutely.
counseling work,
Absolutely.
and we should set that up just like we go to an annual checkup.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's just a matter of bringing that to the forefront for people that you don't, I think we're having to wade through the idea of mental health stigma, or
Mhm.
just idea that if you have to go see a professional, there must be like some kind of diagnosis that is going to follow you for the rest of your life or label you in a certain way or have to get on medication, which
Yeah.
for some people that may be a thing. But if it's just again preemptive, it's just to make sure that I'm healthy. Like if you go get your car tuned up or go to the mechanic to get it looked at, all those kinds of things, that's maintenance on a physical structure that gets you from point A to point B. I mean, we're talking about our mind. And to talk about the brain is really significant because it probably takes up more than 80% of the energy that our body produces on everyday basis. Yeah. It's a really powerful and instrumental, energy efficient, but energy exhausting organ. Like it needs a lot. The brain needs
Really?
a lot.
So let's talk about this then, because I'm thinking we know that physically we need to work out, we need to keep moving,
Yes.
we need to eat well,
Yes.
we need to get our rest.
Yes.
Okay. But from a mind perspective, what are there any practices? So meditation, practicing mindfulness,
Hmm.
right? Is there
Mindfulness is
anything like
huge.
that we should do if someone's not going to go to a counselor because they don't feel like they need it? Are there any types of mental exercises
Hmm.
that people should do on a regular to improve their mental health?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, but that's what I want to make sure that we understand is that all the things you mentioned are going to feed back into the mental health.
Like whether it's eating,
Whether
lack of
it's
sleep, or
if you are
exercising,
not
right?
sleeping,
Oh my God.
let's talk about that. If you're a
Yeah,
person that deals with sleep disturbances, night terrors, insomnia, just broken sleep,
that's mine, isn't it?
yeah,
Okay.
the next day, most people are going to be irritable. They're going to need 2 and 3 cups of coffee, whatever, but they're not their brain's not at its best capacity, right, to deal
Mhm.
with the everyday stressors. And then when the brain is exhausted and is dealing with all these everyday stressors, it gets outside of its what we call the window of tolerance, right? The
Okay.
window of tolerance is this idea that we're going to have everyday stressors that come along. There's going to be things that come along your path every single day. And your brain is created in a way that is prepared to handle those kinds of stressors. But when we talk about we get into a space of chronic stress, this is prolonged stress where you're in fight or flight for just extended periods of time, then you're moving outside of your window of tolerance and your ability that we call it also the allostatic load. So when it gets outside of that load, your brain's just literally overloaded. And so this is when your nervous system starts to break down, other parts of your body start to break down. And really, I've seen it. I'll just talk for me personally. I've saw myself going through really high levels of stress, anxiety, all the things, and that nervous system breakdown led to sleep disturbances, led to hyper arousal, hyper vigilance, um, paranoia, those kinds of
So
things.
personally, you've experienced that, right?
That's why I'm a therapist today. My own personal journey with my mental health led me to this path. And so I'm not a person that is only talking about this from just what I theorized. Like I had to
You've
walk,
experienced it,
I've
right?
experienced, I've had to do this, and I had to create rhythms and practices on a daily basis to get myself back into that window of tolerance when it came to stress and anxiety.
So when you were going through that, you weren't a therapist then.
No, this is pre-therapy and pre-being a therapist and as a therapist, I've experienced stress, I've
Okay.
experienced anxiety, I've experienced sleep disturbances, all the things. Yeah.
And so, but you're more aware of it now that you're a
I'm more aware
therapist.
of it now,
Right.
and I have certain types of rhythms and things in place that I have done. So if I speak from my personal experience, the rundown for me: sleep, protect your sleep at all costs. Like,
Okay.
create a rhythm around sleep.
All right.
Okay. And that means like having a, because the brain works in rhythms, the brain works in cycles, just like everything else that's happening in the earth and the universe, it's working on cycles. I always tell clients, when the sun comes up, guess what? You need to be up. When the sun goes down, it start winding down. But because we live in this society where we
24/7.
24/7,
Oh my
or
God.
we have, people that work night shifts, and I get that. Like, life is life, and you got to do what you got to do. We get our circadian rhythm thrown off with that.
Mhm.
But naturally, if we're naturally following the rhythm of Earth and the sun, then we get up early around the 6 o'clock hour, or even a little before that, go to bed when the sun is going down, or at least making our way to bed as the sun has gone down. All right.
Okay.
So protecting that rhythm, getting a set bedtime, making sure that you have a predictable going to bed time and waking up time every day. Before you turn on your cell phone, laptop, start working, sit quietly for maybe 5 to 10 minutes and just take some deep inhales. Deep breathing is one of my favorite exercises to do with clients. And so that simply means just breathing from your diaphragm. You want to put your hand on your stomach and just watch the inhale and exhale of your diaphragm as you breathe. You breathe in through the nose for 3 seconds and
Right.
exhale through the mouth as if you're sighing out, like. And yeah, you should feel the diaphragm expanding when you do that. The reason that is really powerful is because the brain needs oxygen for more than just your lungs. Like, the brain needs it because it helps kind of regulate all of those chemicals that are going on in the brain. So,
Okay.
stress, one of the best ways to start de-stressing is to start breathing deeply.
Okay. So
Yeah.
so we're talking about baseline stuff now.
This is baseline.
So baseline, get your sleep. You know, who you talking to, man? Who you talking to? Because no excuses, right?
Yeah.
It's a must, because people who brag that you only get 4 hours sleep,
It's
they
not
don't,
it's not a
that's
badge
not
of
gonna,
honor.
yeah, really.
Yeah, the burning midnight oil, I get it. Like, I was in college and I did that. But what's crazy is, like, the more I've lived, I'm 35, but the more I've lived, I've noticed even since college, I just had this habit of, I start to kind of naturally feel like, rather than stay up all night to do the assignment, I just felt like, why not just get up really, really early? Like,
Like, get your sleep
get
in.
the sleep in, then get up really early, and then, like, because I would have like test anxiety like crazy before I took a
Yeah,
big test.
yeah.
And so, like, getting in, like, something about getting to the space before the test starts, maybe going over some notes, maybe praying or whatever I need to do to get kind of my head in the zone and just get up early. I felt like that worked for me better. But I noticed, like, when I do things like stay up all night or stay up late, like, the next day pays for it for me. And I think most people, if they are trying to tune into that, like, they know, they can tell, like, yeah, I'm not at my best. I mean, in athletes, the Olympics are going on right now,
I was
right?
just thinking about
The
that,
Olympics
man.
are going on right now. And so for them to be at their, because not only is it just about their physical performance in that moment, there's so much about that is mentality based.
Yeah.
And so if their head is messed up, their
They
head is not
visualize
focused,
themselves, they
visualizing,
meditate,
getting the
they
right
speak
amount
to
of,
themselves.
absolutely, all of that's a mental game just as much as it's a physical game.
But yeah, and the recovery is important too, because
The
you got
recovery,
people
exactly.
running heats and they talk about
Exactly.
what they're eating. And
Exactly. Taking all that in.
so if we look at the premier athletes taking care of themselves, making time for recovery,
Yes.
and then sometimes they work and they work out.
Exactly.
So for me, I don't have an excuse, right? But again, we're talking about a baseline, and I'm going to get to some challenges though. So a baseline is that no excuses, get your rest and recovery. That will help you be at your best.
Mm-hmm.
You were talking about waking up and doing some deep breathing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a morning routine involved, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most people who are successful have some kind of morning
They
routine,
do.
some kind of self-care. So whether that's journaling, getting their thoughts out on paper, whether that's breathing and meditation,
Yes. Yoga.
working out or praying, whatever that
Mhm.
is, it's like easing into it has to be given a priority.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we get up and we look at our phone or we look at our
Yeah.
email and we
Yeah.
get going. And
Can I say something about that?
yeah,
So, in some recent research and studying that I've done, I came across an article that talked about I believe the CEO at the time of Netflix, that talked about their biggest competition being sleep. Netflix's biggest competition is people sleeping
And not watching the show.
and not watching the show. But think about the binge culture that we have and just how much access we have in our smartphones and our laptops. Everything is an attention economy. Everything is about attention, attention, attention. And if we can just hook you on for the next episode, don't even give you a break, just 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, next episode. You know you want to watch the next one, right?
Right, right.
And all that, those metrics and just the way that our phones are designed to get us to want to keep scrolling and just like the dopamine that's released. It's almost like if you go play slots at the casino, right?
Mhm.
There's an attention economy that we're dealing with that we're having to resist in order to get ourselves in healthy practices that our ancestors, maybe 200 years ago had a much better grasp of this that we just have lost because we have
Of
such
technology.
technology and all the just the access and all the things that we have in the modern world.
Well, I think you bring up a good point because we really need to be driven by our purpose,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
However, what's happening is that everybody and their mom is trying to separate us from our money. But
Mhm.
more importantly, everybody and their mama is trying to get a piece of our mind.
Oh yeah.
So whether it's
Yeah.
the new iPhone, whether it's new Netflix, whether it's all the different streaming channels, whether it's new purse or new whatever it is,
Mhm.
or this whole thing about chasing money too, like the stock market now, that's affecting people's psyche. But the most important thing is really identifying what's important to us and disconnecting to this technology and all of the chatter around us and taking care of ourselves.
Yeah.
Right.
That's where when we talk about meditation, so it's interesting how we have a lot of the tools at our disposal, but they're so commercialized or trendy that we really don't think about what the purpose of the meditation. Or when I just think of meditation, I think of a part of the mindfulness movement, and mindfulness meaning becoming more aware of my present reality, of my present. There's so much about our lives that is anticipating the future
Yeah.
or regretting what happened in the past.
Yeah.
We're either consumed with our past regrets or all of the future threats that we're trying to mitigate.
And the anxieties, right? Right.
And that's where the anxiety kicks in. And the present moment is like, hey, I'm right here.
Mhm.
That's where the breathing, that's where the meditation, that's where the yoga, that's where the walk around your neighborhood without the phone, that's where looking at the trees, looking at the sun, that's where taking all that in. Think about when you were a child. I'm assuming that you went outside and played as a kid.
Oh man, all the time, right?
Right.
All the time.
But
Right.
think about, and I remember that I have a very fond memories of childhood, just growing up in rural West Tennessee with my grandfather at his house, just going outside and playing. At that time, there was no smartphone. The internet existed, but I'm at my granddad's house. He don't have no internet. We had a TV, right? And so I would go do that. But there was this element of like, but there's so much outdoors to explore
nature.
and see, right?
Yeah.
So whether it's the playing in the tree, playing in the yard, go play with your cousins down the street, go bike riding, go whatever. There's so much to do. And that phase of life where we're just dialed into our creativity and our exploration of the world and discovery, that's probably when we're the most mindful as people before all of the other worries and cares of the world and future threats. And this is also assuming that you had a safe childhood. So I don't want to assume that everybody's childhood was like that. I know that there were people that had
with real trauma.
real trauma in their childhood, and so they probably developed a very anxious view of the world, and everything felt unsafe.
Yeah.
So I don't want to negate that, but in reality, if you are able to have a secure home base and you're able to explore the world around you, that's probably where your mindfulness is the most focused. Like you're just able to be present in reality of what's happening right now. You're not worried about 10 days from now or tomorrow, and then there's nothing from your past to really be focused on.
Okay, so now I'm going to come up with some challenges.
Okay.
Because that's kumbaya. Oh, I can get 8 hours of sleep. Nobody's bothering me. I can wake up. I have time to breathe and
Yeah.
meditate, do my yoga.
We got to start somewhere, though.
Right, right.
You
So
gotta
that's the
start
baseline, right?
gotta
That's
start
so there's nothing wrong about the baseline. But then the reality is we're all dealing with some kind of trauma in the past.
Yeah.
What I'm realizing too with this person that's very important to me is that the environment that I created
Mm,
was not the healthiest.
mm,
And I did some reflection about the environment that I was raised in.
mm.
And I'm looking at some attributes of my parents that I didn't like, and I'm kind of becoming my parents and creating the same unhealthy environment that I got to stop. So what I want to bring up are a couple of things. So let's say we start. It's more than just sleeping. It's more than just waking up and breathing and meditating, because there's some real trauma that
Absolutely.
people have to get through.
Absolutely.
And not everybody has access to either an employee assistance program or a benefit where they can afford the fee for counseling, which is somewhere in the 150s or more, depending on how advanced the counselor is. So how do we begin to seek the additional help to address our mental stressors
Mm-hmm.
and anxiety and depression? We had talked before about a lot of times when people say they're overthinking or they have a thought attack,
Mm-hmm.
they don't have a thought attack about positive stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They're
It's
having a
always
thought attack about
ruminating
negative
on the
stuff,
negative.
right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And so how do we get people help in those regards? And I'm not really talking about the people who can go to the counselor and go to their employee assistance program, but the people who are really struggling, they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like how do you, what do you say to people to encourage them to seek it out? And then where do they get it?
I would say that for people that are looking for low cost or free services, there's a website that I like to point people to called the mentalhealthcoalition.org.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a ton of information for different people groups, but then also a lot of free resourcing. And that they can have some for veterans, some for the LGBTQIA community, Black and Indigenous and persons of color. Like they have it all within their site. If you go to their social media, the Mental Health Coalition is on Instagram, and they have a lot of great resourcing on there. But like the crisis hotline 988 is one for suicide prevention. I believe the text hotline for crisis is 741
Mm-hmm.
741.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that, you'll be surprised that there are a lot of therapists who are willing to do sliding scale. And what that means is they're willing to work with the client on what they feel is an acceptable rate for session, what they feel like they can pay out of pocket if they
Right.
don't have any in-network benefits.
Okay.
But then outside of that, I strongly encourage that if you are in a space where you're moving towards crisis, where it's like you feel out of control or out of a space where you can really handle it, then you absolutely want to look into one of those hotlines just to kind of get you started. Because then we're talking about if you're getting into a crisis mode and you are having urges to self-harm, if you're having urges related to suicidal ideation and intrusive thoughts of harming yourself or harming somebody else, then it's escalating us to the point where we have to go to the hospital for stabilization. And this is a viable part of the mental health world, right? Like, so I work in outpatient private practice, but then there are levels of care that go up from there. So, the least restrictive environment is where I work in an
Mm-hmm.
outpatient setting. But then from there, if I need to step somebody up to a higher level of care, then we're talking about intensive outpatient,
Okay.
where you're probably going 5 times a week in a group setting, maybe having some individual but group time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something they would do. Then maybe we're going beyond that. You might have to stay in a facility, actual stay in the facility, whether it be hands off, lockdown. I don't know, but we're talking about escalating to that point for the purposes of making sure that you are safe. And then we are talking about the psychiatry piece, right? We are talking about medication because sometimes it is a brain chemistry thing, and you do need the support of, if I am outside of my ability to function on a daily basis, then I might need medication to help stabilize me.
Okay.
But outside of that, as like resourcing, so I think it's a huge conversation about resourcing, making sure that people feel empowered to go make that decision for their mental health,
Mm-hmm.
giving them that information, and which makes podcasts like this, conversations
Okay.
like this, really important to get that out to the community. Outside of resourcing, if we're talking about addressing things from a practical level, if you feel that you have the bandwidth and the ability to do that, I would say begin journaling. Like, just begin writing down your daily thoughts, right? Um, Daily writing or daily reflection in a journal just kind of helps you see on paper what exactly is going through my mind on a daily basis. What are some themes that I'm seeing? What am I becoming aware of that I'm feeling? And it doesn't have to be, if you only feel like writing a paragraph, just write a paragraph. But if you
Mm-hmm.
feel like I need to just kind of pour my heart out on paper, it can be a form of catharsis. So what that means is just like an emotional release, like getting it out.
Right.
And there is there is neuroscience that's related to the idea of actually writing it on a sheet of paper versus, again, not getting the phone.
Typing
Don't be
or wait,
typing it.
voice to text. You
Don't,
can't
yeah,
do
you
voice.
can do that. People,
Okay.
I do say, like, I tell clients, hey, if you don't feel like physically journaling, if writing is a problem for you, do the voice memo, do the vlogging, or voice recording of yourself. That's still fine. There is a lot to say about all of it, but more importantly, like the idea of writing it and just the neuroscience of that, and just the physical changes in the brain as you do that, as you
Okay.
write, and which, as a species, we've been doing it for a long time. Like, we have
Right.
oral history, but the idea of like the written word, like writing things down, is a really cool experience that other creatures don't do.
So all of the resources we talked about, and there's going to be additional resources. They're all going to be in the description under the video. One of the things that you were referring to about assistance, they don't call it this anymore, but mental health and mental retardation is now just the initials, MHMR,
Mm.
right? That's a place to go. Usually that's county, is by county or
Okay.
city,
Yeah.
right? They can go there.
NAMI's another one. I actually have NAMI is
Yeah, that's the National
yeah.
Alliance on Mental Illness.
Yes,
They
that's
offer
exact.
support groups, education,
Yeah,
and
NAMI's another
advocacy.
one.
Then
And let
there's
me
the
see.
Trevor Project that provides crisis intervention and suicide prevention services.
Yeah. There's
But all
also
of these are going to be down in the description.
Okay, there's also one called the Mental Health America, which offers no-cost group therapy for a number of life stressors and mental health conditions. But again, I got that information from the Mental Health Coalition's website as well. And then there's a link that I can share with you if you want to put
Yeah.
that in the.
So
Yeah.
all of this stuff, because I know there's just so much we can go over, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I want to address is that for people who don't have the resources, or they don't have the benefits at work, it's tough, right? Because you got to find it, and then if you're not paying for it, there's some kind of payment of either a long wait or not immediate access. But there's definitely resources out there. But I like what you said. So the things that are within our control, which is getting our rest, having a morning routine,
Mm-hmm.
journaling is very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know if there's anything else, because I want to make sure that we're giving people things to do prior to it becoming a crisis,
Yeah, absolutely.
right?
Preemptive. Yes, yes.
And so what else would you say, or what are the signs should we be aware of when things are getting just a little bit out of control? So we talked about cleanliness, like your
Yeah,
organization around you,
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
reflection of what's inside, right?
Absolutely. It's a huge reflection of what's inside. So I want to go back to the piece about the sleep and the activities and all
Okay.
the things. What I am not saying is that it's going to be an overnight. Like, it's not going to be
It's a
wake up.
journey.
Yeah, it's a journey. Mental health is a journey, not a destination. So you're going to just need to start making baby steps. I'm not saying that you're going to get 8 hours of sleep every night. Life happens. People have children. People have like, so I get that. I am not thinking of this like utopian version of, you just live on an island. There's no stressors, and you can get all these beautiful like Zen things done, right?
Yeah.
But with real life in real time, if you begin to put those things into practice over time, the brain gets accustomed to it, the brain wants it, and it likes those rhythms. Even when life starts happening, it's like, let me get back to that rhythm. One of my it's not really a secret weapon because I'm really public about it, but I call it a secret weapon because most people really don't talk about this. When I talk to clients who are maybe in the health profession or not, magnesium glycinate is a supplement that is over the counter that I literally share that with a ton of my clients, especially in the realms of stress and anxiety, even dealing with levels of depression or sleep disturbances, right? Or problem sleeping. We talk about melatonin. That was really popular for a long time. Now we talk about ashwagandha. It's another one that we, refer to when we talk about sleep aids. But magnesium is not just something that helps with sleep. Magnesium is probably one of those supplements or minerals in our body that we really need that most people are just deficient in. And so getting those levels up in our system helps improve our heart. It helps improve our nervous system. It helps improve our bone and skeletal structure and muscular health. And it just is an overall, I guess you could say, regenerative mineral, vitamin that we need for our body. And so
Okay.
this specific type of magnesium, not magnesium citrate, not magnesium oxide, magnesium glycinate. Glycinate, yeah. I take that every single day, and usually, over the counter, it suggests between 350 milligrams to 400 milligrams, I believe, if that's correct. Um, but again, everybody doesn't need to take the same amount. I just think if you only want to take one of those a day, you don't have to take 4 every day. But if you want to take one just to kind of get it started and take it before bed, that in of itself, what it does, it just kind of helps balance the body out, balance the mind out. And I feel like since I've been taking it, it's really kind of helped clear up a lot of like the mental chaos. And even when there's moments where I want to get stressed or get into a space of fight or flight, there's just something about the reset. The brain has the ability to respond to the stressor more appropriately and faster. So that's one thing that I always
Did
tell.
your doctor tell you that? Is that something that's
Nope.
tested in your blood or whatever?
Nope.
Nope.
Nope. No doctor told me this in the sense of like they didn't volunteer the information. I read about it when I was going through, again, my own, like during COVID was really stressful for me. And so I read about it in this book called The End of Mental Illness by Dr. Daniel Amen.
Okay.
He's I believe he's a neuroscientist and a psychiatrist, licensed psychiatrist. He's done a lot of brain studies. He has the Amen Clinic. He has one here in the DFW area, one in California. So he talked about like these things called nutraceuticals. So the difference between nutraceuticals and pharmaceuticals is like the nutraceutical is like nutritional supplementation you get over the counter that doesn't necessarily require you to get it prescribed by a doctor.
Right.
Obviously, it's good to check with your doctor. And so I tell anybody before you take it, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a doctor, but if you want to go to Sprouts today or go on Amazon and buy this particular brand, hey, I think it'll help. Everybody that's come back to me has said it's worked wonders for their sleep. It's just helping them feel better. Just overall, just a balancing kind of supplement.
Right.
But
We just want to be clear that we're not giving medical advice.
we're not giving
or
medical
nutritional
advice.
So definitely, if you're going to take any kind of supplement or nutrition, you should definitely check with your doctor first.
Yeah.
Do all those disclosures.
But
right?
I'm huge on holistic. So let me just say in my practice, I'm huge on holistic alternatives, right? So you talked about like who doesn't have access or who doesn't have the benefit, and so this is one tangible, small way. It shouldn't cost you more than 15 to 20 bucks, I don't believe, to get this supplement, and then add that to your repertoire, like on a daily basis. Outside of the things that we mentioned with the trying to exercise and getting daily, well, I didn't really talk about daily sunlight, but like just getting, again, going back to the outside and getting daily sunlight. Vitamin D is another mental health hack that we don't talk enough about. I think we're so, and let me just talk about it from a Black person perspective, right? I always thought that as Black people, because we had like darker skin, like, oh, we ain't got to be outside that much, until I went to the doctor and they were like, yeah, you're vitamin D deficient.
Exactly.
And so more people of color are vitamin D deficient because we actually need to be in the sun more than those who have lighter, who don't have melanin, or who are, just don't have melanin in their skin as much. So that's one of those things that not only does it help with getting your vitamin D levels up, but that the idea of just helping with your mental health, the sunlight, like the idea of seeing the sun, getting in the sun for 20 minutes, first in the morning, midday, is probably the best window of time between those hours. Is another helpful thing for the body and just the brain chemistry. Other hacks outside of the eating, the sleeping, getting the rhythms around that, and the journaling, going back to the meditation piece or the mindfulness practices, this idea of, again, if you need to there's some apps, like I believe Calm app is another one that's
like an app on your phone.
Or like Netflix has the whole Headspace meditation series. If you need someone to help guide you through it, they have this resource where you can sit for 20 minutes and it guides you through a meditation, right? How to get you started. That's a way to kind of help as well. But then if it is more complex than just stress and anxiety, daily stressors and anxiety in that sense, if it's more complex, when we're talking about complex trauma, we're talking about abuse, we're talking about like a lot of more complex things, and that is something that I would definitely say you need to try to work towards seeing someone for. So whether it be starting at a support group, a local community leader, a sponsor, get the conversation started with someone that can help you and get you in the right direction to see a professional. And a licensed professional counselor, someone that works in the health space, a therapist, social worker, usually is equipped. There are different niches out here. There's certain professionals that work in certain niches of mental health. So finding that as well. But you do need to go, at some point, you do need to go see somebody. And try to look at some of those free resources if money is an issue.
Yeah, so definitely, I think this is good. number one, just having the conversation.
Yeah.
We need to be more open in having the conversation and not think that it's a stigma, or like with Simone Biles. You know, she
Right.
did great in the Olympics, but she was strong enough to know that there was something not right in her thought process, and she had to deal with all of the external judgment,
Mm-hmm.
but she was strong enough to remove herself and get help,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so just having the conversation about this is really what the focus is for the Empower series. You know, we always focus on these external things, but I do believe that the way you said it, the quality of our lives so much is impacted by the way we think and the way we feel,
Mm.
and we can't brush that over.
Yeah.
That's why in January we always start with visioning and goal setting, which is the inside game. And we'll do other things, like we talk about the financial literacy piece, we do the physical activity piece, but in August we need to have more conversations like this.
Yes. Yes.
I also want to make sure that we're giving people things that they can practically do, because no matter whether they need to or not, people are not going to go to a counselor,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if they really want to improve their mental health, sleep, nutrition, having a morning routine, journaling, making sure you get all of your supplements, those are all things within your control, right? So that's great. If they have access to an employee assistance program, they can start using that, and that's usually free. They give you the first 3 or 5 sessions with a counselor. So I would say if people have access to an employee assistance program, whether they feel like they need it or not, have a session, right? Have a conversation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. And you can always, I want to say that you can always, if you don't feel comfortable with whoever you had to go see for therapy and you need to change providers, that's within your right to do. So you don't have to feel like
You're limited.
held hostage to, like, I got to go to this. Yeah.
Right. And finding the right person, because just like I said with the financial advisor, you've got to meet with somebody that you feel comfortable sharing some stuff to.
Absolutely.
Right. And so if you go to one counselor and it doesn't work, you know, sometimes you use the analogy of dating. You know, most people don't go on one date, and if it's bad, give up on dating, right? But some people do. But keep looking for that right person that you feel like you can connect to, you can talk to. There's also books you can read, but that doesn't preclude going to a counselor.
Correct.
Right? You've got to go to a counselor.
And I didn't mention one other resource. Psychology Today is I am on Psychology Today. A lot of therapists.
That's a website, psychologytoday.com.
It's like a database really for psychiatrists, therapists that honestly get a profile set up on there, and you can go find a list of providers from all over the country. And so yes, it is a really helpful resource in finding what fits. They have all of these different filters of like pay, insurance, modality, need. So you can really kind of play around with that and do some research on like maybe this person would be a good fit.
Yeah, actually, because what I did when I went to my employee assistance program, I got 15 counselors, and I just got names. But then I Googled them, and I went to Psychology Today and some other websites, and I actually took a picture. I got their picture, a little bit about their bio, and I wanted to set this up for family counseling. And so I sent this to my other family members, and we kind of went through it all, and we both picked the same counselor to start with. Yeah. And so that's very important to do. There's additional resources underneath the video for crisis as well as pre-crisis.
Yeah.
But there's so much more we can talk about.
Yeah.
And I will commit to you on this, right?
Okay.
I will continue to go to counseling.
Okay.
I won't give it up. And I would do this. I will give myself the attention, because I'm always going to counseling, a group counseling session for family members, or how can I help someone else? I'm going to keep going to see, okay, what about me?
Yeah.
Right? Let me get in touch with my feelings. Let me identify some of the trauma that I'm dealing with, that I'm just I compartmentalized.
Right.
And I haven't really addressed.
Right.
And that's going to help me show up and be there for people that I care for more, and be there for them emotionally, and connect with them more emotionally, as opposed to just transactionally.
Absolutely. And I would just say the other thing that I want to kind of reiterate is about tuning into the body through the exercise of the breathing, and just checking in with your heart every morning, just tuning into what you're feeling on a physical level. I do like a mental health check with all of my clients, or just like some things that you can begin to ask yourself.
Mhm.
On a scale from 1 to 10, how stressed out are you? 1 being no stress, 10 being high stress, and what is basically prompting that stress level? Where do you
Right.
feel that stress in your body? These are things you can ask yourself at the crib, right?
Mhm.
What are things? How are you feeling that in your body? Um, and what's the pain point that you're feeling? Like all of that regarding just how to tune into the body helps you become more aware of what it needs at any given time. And I say if you don't prioritize that, then the body will. And that's when we start going back to the doctor and you having ulcers and you having back pain and we talking about high blood pressure because of stress, and then you having panic attacks out of nowhere. And I have had lots of clients that have dealt with
Mhm.
that, especially work related stress, that they are so overwhelmed trying to make a dollar that their body just starts shutting down on them, and they're like, oh, I
Right.
feel like I need to prioritize therapy now, or they were really reluctant to, and they're like, I guess I need to go see somebody. So I'm saying
Mhm.
if you don't start that process of tuning into the body in those tangible ways now, then the body's going to tell you like, yeah, something's wrong, we're going to start breaking down on
Break it
you.
down, right?
Yeah.
So if people want to get in touch with you, is it the Davis Counseling Center or Davis Counseling Center, the website?
If people want to get in contact with me, like very specifically, they can go to Psychology Today. I'm Karlos Lyons, Karlos
Okay.
Lyons, Lyons. I do also have my profile with the Davis Counseling Center on their website.
Okay, so
So
it's the Davis Counseling Center.
Davis
Okay.
Counseling Center in North Dallas. I'm also on social media, so they can find me there at Mr.K Lyons.
Okay.
And then I'll give you my contact information, I guess, like
Right.
my email address.
It's going to be below
Yeah,
the video as
yeah.
well. But definitely, man. So again, I want to make sure that in all of our programs that we're giving people hope.
Mm,
And so the hope is no matter where you are on the spectrum of mental health, there are resources out there for you,
yes.
right? And there's life can be beautiful. It can definitely be more fulfilling. There's just have hope, even though you're not experiencing it now. That there is hope that your life can be more fulfilling and less
Mm,
stressful, right? There's
yeah,
hope.
yeah,
The inspiration to take action. So the goal is if people just listen to this and they don't do anything,
yeah.
right? They don't begin journaling. They don't try to get at least 30 minutes more sleep or whatever they can do within their realm, then we didn't do our job. So the goal is really to inspire people to take some kind of action.
Hmm.
Definitely, you've educated us a lot. You've educated me on things I didn't know. But more importantly, is connecting to resources. So you're a critical resource. So thank you for that. Again, all of the resources that we talked about are going to be below the video. And so I would encourage people to take the action to reach out and pursue those resources, even if they got to just email thrive@empowerseries.com.
Hmm.
One of the things that we want to do is connect people to resources that are out there that people don't know. I, whether it's financial, whether it's physical, whether it's mental. I think there's resources around us and people around us that really care. And if we're just bold enough to reach out and connect and be
Hmm.
real and be
Hmm.
authentic,
Hmm.
we'll find that we're not alone.
Right, right.
We're not
Yeah, we're
alone.
no man's an island. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And we're all trying to figure out this whole thing called life, right?
yeah, yeah.
I like someone said that there's no expert in the human experience.
Mm.
We're all just trying to figure things out, and we should call it the human experiment because we do things
Yeah,
and then we find out what happens, and we go, okay, let's do something different, right?
yeah, yeah.
And our hope is that by sharing our experiences and what we've done on this show, by sharing our experiences and being transparent, that it's helped people move through life more gracefully, think more effectively.
Mm.
And I like this because my daughter's an artist and my son's an artist, and we're all artists when you think about it. But we are now able to form, like an artist, the tapestry of our life.
Mm.
So again, man, thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me. Yes, sir. Pleasure being here. Thank you again.
All right. And I want to thank you for joining us as well. I know you've taken a portion of your life to listen to us, have our conversation. I say that out of the 8.12 billion people in this world, all of us are very unique. There's nobody that's the same, but we are unique. And I believe the world is waiting for us. We have a unique message, and there are people out there who we're designed to touch, and only we can touch them. There are people out there that we have a message for, and only we are the ones that can deliver that message for. but we are all sitting in sometimes and I don't know, or I don't know what to do. Maybe I'm scared. What will people think? I want to encourage you that if you're listening to us, you should have been listening to us. We've shared something that you should have listened, that you should have heard, and hopefully it's touched you to inspire you to take action and then be more confident in your experiment of life. So stay connected with us, the Empower series. Make your, send this out to other people who this may bless. Email us at thrive@empowerseries.com. But don't let this be the end. Let this only be the beginning. Thank you. And until we meet again, be empowered and inspired to thrive.